So that continued, and then when we saw that the school wasn't doing anything about it, so every day I would tell my daughter, today you have to speak up for yourself. If anyone treats you in a way that you don't like, you have to speak up. Let everyone know that it's not nice to treat other people badly. It's okay if you don't want to be my friend, but you can talk bad at me. You can say nasty things to me. So gradually she started to say that. And at some point, because the school is very close to the house, sometimes at recess, I would go to the playground to check what's happening. I wouldn't let my daughter see me, but I just wanted to know if anything had changed. And I would see that she was still standing by herself. Sometimes she would take jump ropes to school. Sometimes she would volunteer in the JKSK classroom so she could avoid the drama and the bad treatment at recess. So in my family at that time, what we experienced was that my daughter was struggling with social emotional development. I was losing confidence as a parent. We weren't sure how to continue to provide support, because it was also happening at the time when I was working in a place where my supervisor would not speak to me. So when I come into the room, it was a childcare center, and I would come into the room and say hi to the person I was supposed to be working with, and she would not, she would just ignore me. And other people who look like her will come into the room and she would chat with them. They would talk about the program for the day, what they're planning for the next day. And I was struggling, and every day I was going home feeling bad about the work I was doing. And I felt really bad that I wasn't being supported enough at my place of work. But I decided to take my own as a little bit of problem, because my daughter's mental health was more important to me. So I continued to support my child. I left the place of work. I stopped working on that job. I decided to go back to continue my school program and do school full time. And my daughter gradually was learning that it's okay to speak up. And she was learning that she could, support herself, as we continue to support her at home every day with encouraging words and things she could do. And it continued. And at some point, she was getting recognized for being responsible, for being supportive. And I think that kind of encouraging words and things she could do. And it continued. And at some point, she was getting recognized for being responsible, for being supportive. And I think that kind of made other children to begin to pay attention to her. So they were not so mean anymore. So they were like opening up and asking her to come join them at recess, but it was still not what she wanted. So that continued, and eventually from grade 2, grade 3, and then by the time she got to grade 5, she got an award for the most confident child in class. And that was very amazing for us as a family, because we saw how she wouldn't want to go to school, and now she's getting an award for the most confident child in class. We saw how she would cry sometimes about the feelings at school. We saw how she would take jump ropes just to avoid being treated badly at recess. And now she's getting an award for the most confident child in class. So what I decided to do was that if I could provide that support to my child to be able to go from having low self-esteem, which she didn't have from back home, but because she was treated unfairly at school, and how she moved from that place to being a very confident child, to a child whose grades went very, very high in school, and she was doing well in all the subjects at school. So I said to myself, I could do more to support people who look like me. And that was how I started the Afro Women and Youth Foundation. And I would go to the shelter, I would go to communities where there's a lot of Black families, and speak to them about how they can respond to anti-Black racism, how they can self-advocate, because it's a different thing to support children. It's a different thing to let children speak out for themselves. So now we have children, we have youth who have learned that it's important to be able to speak up. Self-advocacy is what we advocate for. And they're learning it and they're getting it. So I'm very happy to be here today. And I want to say that it is our collective responsibility. Everybody, every adult, every young person in school, every parent, every uncle, whether they look like you or not, as long as you see people are not being treated nicely or fairly, it's okay to stand up and speak up for people. There's a lot of people who would not be able to speak up for themselves. There's a lot of people who are going to ignore your struggles, but as much as possible, it's very good to be able to extend some kind of support to people. So I think you kind of said a lot when you were, going through the slides. But my question for everyone here today and those watching online is what can you do to eliminate racism? What can you do? So I'm going to leave you all with that, reflective question, and I hope that it continues to ring in your mind. Some people have said in the past that when I ask this question, I'll be kind. I'll show more kindness. I'll be more receptive. I'm going to listen to people more. I'm going to, show more empathy to people. So it can mean different things to different people, but it's just good to be able to continue to ask each other that question. How can I make the world a better place? How can I eliminate racism? Thank you very much. I think that's what I have to say today.
Thank you so much, Edible. I think that was a beautiful, honestly beautiful moment there. And I thank you so much for sharing that experience and your story. That was amazing. I feel like that centered off our discussion very nicely on why we're here and why we wanted to have a discussion, essentially on making sure that we're advocating for anti-racism and why we're doing it, not only for ourselves and for those immediately around us, but for the youth, especially for those who are not able to have that platform to speak up for themselves and be validated by themselves and have a voice for themselves. So we want to make sure that we are, not just giving them a voice, but allowing them a position and a platform where they can do that for themselves and they know how to do that. So just thank you so much for that amazing intro there. We are going to start into some of our amazing art performances that we have lined up for us today. You guys just enjoy some of our amazing artists. Some of them, I hope that they are going to be joining us a little bit later, but for now, we will go with those who have joined us. And to start off, we have Nimkins, NMKNS. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that. Just the letters, okay. If you go on to the next start with our first performance here today, and it is NMKNS. Yes, please. There you are.
Awesome. My name is Connor. I'm trying out a new stage name, NMKNS. It is the just the shorthand version of my spirit name, which is Little Thunder. And so yeah, just it's said like the letters. I usually memorize my poems, but I wrote these ones late last week, and so I have to have my book this time. But it's really a reflection on different dates. There's going to be a lot of dates, we'll call them milestones, I guess, in Indigenous history. And I started it in 1950, and that's the name of this one, because I want to show how it happened. All of this stuff happened in our lifetime, and I missed a bunch of it. But I wanted to give a brief intro, and it's really just a reflection on how things really haven't changed so much as we think it has. In the 1950s, Indigenous people were finally considered human. Do you know how much that hurts? To start a sentence with the fact that my grandparents haven't always been human, but they've always been Indian just like me. What would you have done the day you became a person? Did they look at shattered glass and finally see their face reflecting back, or did they even notice at all? They probably laughed, said, "So what? The laws changed, but the people didn't. The rhetoric stayed the same. We are not people. We still aren't. Statistics, maybe, dates and times and definitions, but not human. Anything but live and life and living, anything but alive." In the 1960s, we were allowed to access higher learning. They no longer took away our names when we entered into their gates. They still do take our numbers. They say, "Be grateful, this is all we are taking." What would you have done? The first day you could look to a future without having to lose yourself. Did they see a future, or just another broken promise hoping to trick them into submission? Did they even notice at all? They probably laughed, said, "So what? The laws change, but the ideas didn't. The stereotypes stayed the same. We aren't educated. We never will be. Western thought limits our ability to dream and the courage to keep seeking." In 1996, our babies finally came home, finally stayed home. They dreamt of a past where families held love above all else, but we weren't taught to love, so we could not recreate it. What would you have done the day you could watch your baby grow older than 3? Did they find comfort in the limbs that sprouted from their bodies, or did they even notice at all? They probably laughed, said, so what? The laws changed, but the system stayed the same. Generations of people taught to bleed before they were taught to laugh, taught to work the fields before they were taught to run in them, taught to close their fist, their heart, and their mind, anything but love, loved and loving, anything but I love you. In 2015, we were asked to forgive. We still are, asked to speak only when spoken to, asked to breathe only when it won't make a sound. We never made a sound. What would you have done? The day you were asked to pardon someone who has done nothing but ask for it, did we shoulder the burden and politely say thank you? Did we even notice at all? We probably laughed, said, so what? Nothing has changed, it never will. We still aren't valued, tokenized, maybe check marks and grants and quotas, used, abused, and reused, anything but useful. In 2021, our babies came home. Do you know how much that hurt? To hear people talk about discovery like Columbus talked about Canada, we knew they were there. We still are all here. What would you have done the day you were told that they finally believed you? Did we look to our screen and think a change was approaching? Did we even notice at all? We laughed, said, so what? They will forget in an instant, they always do. And here we are today, just dates and times and definitions, just Indians wanting more, just Indians not making a sound, but we are starting to again.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, NMKNS. That was amazing. Okay, that was honestly so beautiful and amazing to start us off. So thank you so much for that. Honestly, I feel like we need another round of applause for that amazing work.
I'm just gonna move this because I'm clumsy and I might fall into the curtain. So for those of you who arrived a little later, my name is Ninkins, which means little thunder, hence the NMKNS. It's just shorthand for my name. Figured it sounded pretty cool. This one's a little bit harsher. I'm in law, race and gender studies, and indigenous studies. As you can imagine, I have a lot of white professors. And this is really just a poem that just has a lot of things that have been said in the classroom, in my papers, outside of the classroom, and it's a little bit more angry than my normal ones, but I like to have a little fun. Course registration says, Indigenous course taught by white professor, says all are welcome. Except if you have Indigenous thought, Indigenous experience, Indigenous writing style, Indigenous vision. Course registration says, except if you are Indigenous, all are welcome. I write, Indigenous people experience discrimination. White professor writes, show me the proof. I say, you are my proof. I say, this is my proof. I say, I am my proof. White professor says, cite your sources. I say, since contact, Indigenous people have experienced violence. White professor says, incorrect. Says there was a period of friendly relation. White professor defines period of friendly relations, brings up TRC. I say nothing. What I want to say is wrong. What I want to say is discomfort lives in your body. What I want to say is, sorry for people who are younger, shut the fuck up. White professor says you're reaching. I say, I miss my community, the peace, the comfort, the land. White professor says untrue. White professor says reserves are violent, are dirty, are loud. Says I cannot find comfort there. Says everyone she knows just can't wait to leave. I call it home. White professor says you are pronouncing cage wrong. I digress. White professor says, you do not need to define Indigenous person. White professor cannot define Indigenous person. White professor says residential schools are common knowledge. I ask, since when? White professor says, I am plagiarizing. White professor says, not unless you can validate it. White professor says, my experience is not validation. White professor says, cite your sources. White professor says, cite your sources. White professor says, cite your sources. White professor says, be concise. White professor says, but also tell me about the Indian Act. White professor says, make it palatable, digestible, easy on white ears. White professor says, listen when I speak. Says, I am the professor. Says, you are wrong. White professor says, child. Says, be little. Says, be belittled. White professor says, quiet down. White professor says, Indian residential schools. Says, I have to say it. It's what it is called. Says, I get to say it. It's what they're called. White professor teaches colonial violence. White professor is colonial violence. White professor does not see the irony. White professor says, tell me about the Crees in the north. I say, I am Anishnaabeg. I say, tell me about the Italians down south. White professor does not laugh. White professor asks us a question. White professor says, mistaken. White professor answers the question. I say, show me the proof. White professor says, listen, child. Says, do not disrespect me. Says, colonial violence. White professor says, everything but thank you. White professor says, nothing but you're welcome. White professor says, all are welcome.
Yeah.
You just came up here and killed it, so yes. So we're gonna go into our next performer, Lenora from Taboo, which is a community health center in Toronto. So I'm so grateful that these two lovely ladies have joined us. We have Lenora and Elizabeth, who are going to present some of their pieces and some of their artwork. They are two writers based in Toronto. They create usually youth poetry, youth work to a various amount, and work so pretty much amazingly down south, doing work for the Black community and for youth. So I'm very grateful that they're here and sharing some of their art with us. So yes, I'm going to slip over for them. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leonard Cayenne. I'm originally from Trinidad in the West Indies. I migrated here over 53 years ago, so I think I am Canadian by name, but not nationality, still a Trinidadian. I have lived in this Scarborough area for the last 43 years and have been a volunteer at Taboo for the last 14 years. Our writing group started close to nearly 14 years ago, was just about 5 persons at a time. And we just met at Taboo. Taboo has a lot of programs for the Black community. Writing group and book club is one of them. There are a lot of exercise programs, health programs, a lot of sessions going on. There's a men and a women's group with over 100 members, and they meet weekly. So it's a vibrant community center, and with the COVID, we all still continue our programs on Zoom weekly. The writing group is made up of about 17 persons. We usually have about 10 or 12 each Thursday. It's a weekly program. And the topics used to be given when we were in person. The topics was given then and there, and you had to write something for 20 minutes, and then you get your feedback, and it's always positive feedback, and no questions whether it was true or false. So it was a fun group. Now that we are on Zoom, we give the topic a week in advance, so you have more time to think about it. And it's a longer story when we meet on Thursdays. And it's a lot of fun sometimes. It's amazing how you could have one word or one topic and get so many different versions and stories from that one topic. So it ends up sometimes like a comedy club. So we have been writing a lot of stories during the pandemic, and hopefully we would be able to do another publication. We had one book published late last year, and that was an accumulation of hundreds of stories that we had written over the years. It was quite a challenge choosing which ones will get into the book, but we finally did get over 60-something stories into the book. And it's now on sale on Taboo's website for anyone that might be interested. It's called Reflections. And it's a accumulation of all our upbringing in the Caribbean. We have an indigenous member, we have a Sri Lankan member, and we used to have some men, but they didn't last very long. So So that is more or less our story. So we are inviting anyone who would like to drop in on a Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock and just listening anytime. I wasn't sure what the topic was for this week, so I am just going to read something out of our book. And this is from one of our old prompts that we did many years ago. This is the copy of our book. It's called Reflections, and it's written by the writing group members. This is called The Old Blue Shirt, and this was a prompt that was given by one of the members who brought in the sleeve of an old blue dungaree shirt and asked that we write something about it. So I said, looking at it hanging there, it's look like might be a rag, or you might imagine it being someone's favorite, well-loved and well-worn shirt. Many times over, comfortable, this blue shirt. Was it a gift or was it self-bought? Maybe the owner wore it the day he got his first job, or maybe he wore it on a first date. Looking at it, you might imagine fond memories. Perhaps he proudly wore it for a night at the club, the movies, or classes. Or perhaps he dressed it up with a pair of dark, fine striped corduroy pants or dark blue jeans to step out with his special someone. You get the sense that the blue shirt was and still is a magnificent item of clothing, strong and well made. It probably stood up to all the wear and tear of everyday life. Now it is a bit worn, faded, and torn. Do you know this blue old shirt is back in fashion? It's probably worth 2 or 3 times its original price. There is still a lot of life in this old blue shirt. It's ideal for gardening, washing the car, tying a cuff to the car antenna, or doing yard work. A once beautiful blue shirt with a checkered front, long sleeves and 2 pockets is now a treasured memory of good and not so good times. It's all we need to jog life memories. That's it. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying this evening. It's so enlightening, such beautiful poems. You hearing me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I usually get up very early in the summer mornings and go for a walk with a girlfriend. Very early, 6:30. We are back home by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. In the winter time, I open my window and I look outside. And whatever thoughts come to mind, I write them down. Woke up at the break of dawn, stood at my window and stifled a yawn. The ground all covered in snow, the sun was out in its brilliance. What a beautiful day. There is a calm in the air. Not a leaf or creature stirring anywhere. No bird song, no squirrels jumping around. Who can tell what's to come? There is a calm in the air. Peaceful thoughts go through my mind. No sadness or worry in my head could I find. Not thinking of what comes next. No business of mine. Things will take care of themselves. The day have just begun. Everything will be just fine. There is this calm in the air. Admire the beauty of nature all around. Be in the moment, no need to frown. With a smile on your face, you wonder aloud. Is this what life is all about? Take it all in without a care, because there is a calm in the air. Breathe in deeply, relax in your body. Feel the universe around you. With your feet planted firmly underground, embrace your serenity. Enjoy the calm in the air. That's it. The end.
Thank you so much, Lenore. That was beautiful. Lenore, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Lenora. That was beautiful and amazing. We are going to go over to Elizabeth right after, so I'll keep this very short so that way we can give her time to add her story onto that and her piece. But that was so beautiful, and thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and a bit about who you are in the Taibu Community Center. So thank you so much for that. We are going to go over to Elizabeth next, who has her piece to perform. And yeah.
Thank you to the Sudbury Workers Education and Advocacy Center for this invitation. My name is Elizabeth Campbell, and I have lived in Toronto about 40 years. I was born and raised in Sault Ste. Marie. My heritage is Syrian and First Nations Métis. My Métis ancestors came from the historical Drummond Island and settled in Penetang, Ontario. I have two daughters that were born and raised in Toronto. My youngest daughter attended Laurentian University in Sudbury and received her degree in environmental geography. And now I'd like to read a poem that I wrote. It's called Highway of Tears. Come with me as I travel the highway of tears. Every step of this bloody highway fills our souls with fears. Missing and murdered Indigenous women have cried to their ancestors, a bloody sound, as their lives were stolen, some never to be found. This road has the stench of death. But wait, these are only Indian women, not worthy of our time. Why worry about these women who have taken their last breath? Their lives are not of value. So what is the crime? Is one person's life of more value than another? Shame on us to let this continue in this age. They are now at peace, one with the Earth Mother. To let this continue with no care fills me with rage. Let us speak out. Our voices should be heard. Justice must happen for all of our people. Speak out, speak loud. It is our word. Fly high, sweet souls. Fly high like a bird. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Sorry, we're just on mute there, so I couldn't thank you promptly, but thank you very much for sharing. Okay, our next performer, Sophia. There we go. Yes.
Hi, my name is Sophia, and I'm going to be sharing with you We Are Not Different. Is there a reason why you look at us differently? Is there a reason why we have to cover our hair? We may look different, but we are all humans. We all have skins, though they might be different. We all have opinions, though they might be different. You look at us differently because we have a different skin. But what separates us is a little tiny pin. Our accent is different, but we sound the same underwater. We breathe like air roaming across the water. Slowly we walk away from racism. Slowly they walk away with their burning escapism. We should learn from the past. We should not be fast. Slowly we learn not to be ignorant. Slowly we learn not to be hard-hearted. Your forefathers might have been wrong, but yet you are trying to be strong. Learn from the past and make it better. Learn from the past and change the setter. We are not different. We are all perfectly made. We are not different. We just happen to be shades. Shades all different, but we are still the same human.
And that was so beautiful. So thank you so much for Jake coming and giving us your beautiful art, Sophia. I appreciate that. I hope your slide was okay on. She does have a slide that we can share. Beautiful. Next, we do have Soulful Echo here to share a little bit of her art with us. So thankful to have you here. So we will throw her slide up and give her a time to tell us a little bit about herself and her art.
Okay, I've been writing poetry for about 3 years now, and I always love to perform when I can. So I wrote this poem. This is one of like the most treasured poems that I've written. Sometimes I write poems for fun, just when I'm just chilling. But this one is like special to me. And it's called To Be Black and Woman, Wise Wordings for a Waiting Hat. To be Black and woman is to have journals filled with criticism about yourself because you do not pay the standards. To be Black and woman is to wish you were different but conventional because you want to fit in but still stand out. To be Black and woman is to be given problems but expected to give peace. To be Black and woman is deciding to write your own elegy, even if you're not dead, because the thought of life no longer things your soul. The skin of this girl is no stranger to scars. To be Black and woman is knowing the staggering falls and tumbling stones our folks once had glorious days upon them, and grace to guide them through, but refuse to do it if they good upon themselves. But to be Black and woman is to also know that these are the glory days of becoming, and sometimes it's okay to be a fool, if that is how you learn. To be Black and woman is having so many unlearning to learn, that you are the brightest star in the darkest night, the prettiest flower in the garden, the warmth that makes you forget how cold the world is. And maybe just this once, you won't ask to be more, but celebrate everything we were before. Because this soul is a home where I know and love. So here is to being Black and woman, to being a woman of one, standing in the face of everything that has wanted to put me down, but choosing strength. So your word be the knife that cuts my soul, but be my strength be the love that heals me. There has never been a not greater good than strength and love. Thank you.
That was beautiful. So we have Soulful Echo coming back up again. Thank you so much.
To the becoming of my glory years. So existing in the shadow of something greater simply makes me a champion of lost cousins. But an alternate universe created by me seems to be the only kind of fun. Because if my life was a movie, I'll be the main character. So into the becoming of my glory years, I spent my years today reading Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's We Should All Be Feminists, and for the first time calling myself a feminist. I spent my years today arguing with the Subway vendor that the coupon was still valid if it simply changed 1 to 11, 2021 and 2nd December 2021. This was long ago, instead of February 11th, 2021. I spent my years today being a feminist for a certain country that I divested a year ago. This is Nigeria. So while I inherently pursue my inexistent reality, I still deep down hope to be like Meg Wiley, who but it says could turn the topic of dreams into existential angst. Only then shall I dare to celebrate the salvation of particular being. Thank you.
Kyle will slowly start to make his way up here, and we will begin right after. So thank you guys for staying online. I kept track of that number, so yeah.
So, hello. Yeah, I haven't done poetry in a long time, so yeah, I'm excited. So I'm Kyle. Yeah, I do poetry, music, stand up, just random things, but I don't know, it's all art and it's all kind of like, there's all different cool ways to express yourself in different channels, and it's, yeah. Right? Yeah, go art. So this is called Divine Gift, and it's around because I was kind of thinking about it, and a part of sort of the, like within racism, there is also like the sort of like the queer discrimination element of it too. And I sort of have seen a lot of that happen over the years, and it's strange because I'm a white dude, obviously, but I tend to like watch it happen, and it doesn't happen to me. It's really odd. But yeah, so this is a poem about that, kind of, not really, in a weird way. Yeah, I haven't talked to people in a long time. This is very weird. It really does. I have a gift that some would call a divine right, one that I become a pro at explaining to someone each new day, chosen to heal hearts and mend understanding. My ego would say it's wrong, but my intuition knows that it's a gift I need to cherish. Compassionate glances bring thoughts clear, comprehension of mind or body, breast and chest, colliding at times in more ways than imagined. Feelings complicate constantly. Empathy feminine, aggression masculine. Values blended for a balanced self-love peacefulness, always trapped between a lush jungle and cactus grove. Variety has become the only way to sleep well at night. Being two-spirited is complicated, otherwise known as bisexual for all the people in the back. Never simple like in dreams, often messy with breakups, and it's too complicated right now. Happiness intertwined with constant worry, a divine rite of passage. Wandering the space in between black and white, traditional, yet completely foreign. Magical and mythical, all at the same time, and misunderstood even when simplified. Divine love is my destiny, comfort with change or insecurity. Balancing genders with passion with what really makes me happy. My heart full of diamonds I must love and cherish. With this gift, I choose happiness over fear.
Thank you for that. That was amazing, especially hearing the ideas of coming from a different perspective and how we do a lot for making change. I like that. That was very amazing. Thank you so much. Next, we do have another last minute sign up with us here today. Thank you so much, Aurora, who is going to share some of her beautiful experience story art. We are also going to drop some of her connections and as well as Kyle's in the group in the chat box online, so you guys can stay connected with them. For later, if anybody is interested in making sure that they can stay in connection with all of these amazing artists and, you know, be able to find some of the books like Reflections that was up by our Taboo artist and so much other connections, you will be able to stay connected on our website. I will be dropping the link in the group chat later on, and then you will be able to get all the updates on them when I update them later on today. So you will be able to stay connected with all of them and all their amazing work. Thank you, Aurora. So whenever you're ready, you will have the time to come and present yourself. There you go.
Hello, my name is Aurora Twinsy. I've been writing poetry for, I think, 5 years actually now. And I've recently released a poetry book called Gold Pores, and if you guys want to, you could check me out on Instagram at aurora.oxo and go ahead and check out the book. I talk about what it's like growing up in a predominantly white area like Sudbury as a Black woman, because I was born and raised here, and how I mended the peace through God. So this is one of my favorite pieces called Leaves Me Absolved. About rain, about music of raindrops trickling down my rooftop. My roof, mine, I have a rooftop. I am sheltered, warm, covered, untouched. Still, the rain calls me out to dance. The cold, wet reminds my body that it too can feel every inch of who I am. I'm not only this soul, no, I am also this body. I get caught up in the chemistry, I forget that this vessel, this body, carried the weight for years. I cannot discredit who I was and who I've become and who I will be in this body. Society would love to dictate how I feel. So about rain, droplets pounding against my brown skin like dirt, mixed with water molding me muddy. Wash away the lie. Brown skin like clay, for I am the potter's vessel, filled with authenticity. Droplets running down my curves, curves like valleys, shallow waters fill me, rendering me barren. Wash away the hypersexualization, curves like hills, bountiful and tender, like the depth of my nuanced waters. My body, this vessel, she is mighty, she is fierce, she is soft, she is sweet, and she feels intensely. Rain, I like to think of you as God's tears, baptizing his creation, made new. Something about the rain, it leaves me absolved. Thank you.
Tell you, when a poem resonates with you, that was just beautiful. I was in that class crying my eyes out. It was amazing. When a poem hits you in your core, honestly, all the poems here today have been so beautiful and so amazing. So thank you guys so much, each and every one of you, for getting on this. Especially those online, like you guys have been so beautiful, and being able to have the honor to hear you guys' experiences like this, especially in person, is such a privilege that we have been lost with the pandemic and the lockdowns. And I have been teary-eyed all night hearing these amazing poems. So thank you all so much, and also very nervous not getting on the stage tonight. But if there's anybody else in the crowd who would like to share their poems, okay, yes, beautiful. I hope you will sign your name. We will turn into a little slight push into what we have planned. Cassidy will be coming up on stage next. That is from Myths and Mirrors. That is ours. So whoop, whoop, whoop. You guys better make the house warm for her tonight, okay?
I'm gonna grab the guitar.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I don't know you guys that well. So yes, as TT mentioned, I have a song I will be singing, but I am also here with Myths and Mirrors, which is a nonprofit grassroots community arts organization in Sudbury. We celebrated our 25th anniversary actually last year. So we've been around for quite a while, and well, I mean, I have to toot the horn because Chimdi, a Soulful Echo, who presented earlier, was actually one of our summer students this past summer. So it's super awesome to see her out presenting her work. I got chills from everybody, but like, I saw you. Yes, and I know it shows you Myths and Mirrors up there, but I am a musician outside of my work. So if you're interested, you can find me on Instagram. You can search up my name, Cassidy Houston, or you can find me at CASSHOUS. If you type my name into Google, you might find an Australian fitness blogger. You might also find me. So if you'd like to listen to my music, it's available online. This song that I'm going to be playing, actually, though, it's not out recorded for the world, and I have a hard time remembering the lyrics always, because when I'm too emotional when I'm singing, it just muddies everything up. So I have my mini little cheat sheet on my phone here. But the kind of musician I am, I like to talk about my work. So this is a song I actually wrote last June. Last June? No, longer than that. 2020. I'm so bad at this. Oh my gosh. We were actually talking about how long the pandemic's been earlier, and we were like, we couldn't. It was hard to guess time. But I wrote this essentially when the Black Lives Matter movement was really starting to take off with bigger crowds and outside of those like mainstream areas it had been in, and more people were like, oh, wow, like I didn't realize this was a problem. And I'm somebody who's very empathetic. I'm wearing a shirt that says, I'm doing great. I only cried a little bit today. But it's true. It's who I am. I'm a crier. I'm very emotional and I'm very sensitive. And so when other people are going through something, it really, really muddies everything up in my life and my emotions, but in a way that I'm able to put it into my art and my music. So this song is called Patience. Your patience has been wearing thin. I'm waiting to be let in, and I can't explain the way it is, 'cause I know that it won't change the same way without your shade. We're learning to breathe, learning to breathe, learning to breathe again. Don't be mistaken, there's no turning back. You see us for all we lack. In this big world that comes to class, ignorance is a lie without your shade. Learning to reach, learning to reach, learning to reach again. Ooh, it's shaking. We're turning tides. We can get there with you by our side. Open your eyes, shut that world, watch another life get burned, and you cycle, stop living. Learning to live, learning to live, learning to live again. Oh, learning to breathe, learning to breathe, learning to reach, learning to reach, learning to live, learning to live again.
Thank you so much, Constantine, for that amazing, beautiful song. That was beautiful. We haven't had any songs so far tonight, and I don't know about you guys, but that's my guitar. So I was like, oh my gosh, who's playing that there?
So like, I was enjoying all of that. That was amazing. Like, I've never heard that guitar sing like that. So that was beautiful. Every piece of it, yeah. So if you guys have an instrument at home and don't know how to play it, find somebody else to.
We will go into our next performer. We have another performer here who is brand new. Right Camila, I'm going to say your first name. I'm not going to say your last name, but I'm going to let you come and present yourself and, share your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how these lovely people can stay connected with you. Okay? Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Kalila. No, it's okay. You actually did a pretty good job. Yeah, I'm new here. I was encouraged to share some of the work that I wrote. I'm actually like a visual artist, so I kind of do writing a little bit on the side. So yeah, I wrote this last year. It was inspired by a move I made when I was 15. I was in grade 11. I moved away from home and lived with another family in a brand new city, brand new school, and it was an intimidating next step for me. So yeah, it's kind of like a creative writing piece / poem. With summer coming to an end, with leaves once young and supple, now rigid and faded, with animals once carefree, now preparing for the trials of winter, with young children once running with their feet, now buying new shoes for school. The girl once in the loving embrace of her family, now leaving their arms and facing the world alone. With the summer coming to an end, I started grappling with the fact that I would not be returning to the life I was accustomed to. As I started packing all the things I was going to take with me to my new home, I began to realize the volumes of others I wasn't able to bring. Leaving was new and exciting, but at the same time, I was paralyzed with fear. Doubt ran through my mind like pebbles rolling ahead of a landslide. It's only for a year was the wall that kept the landslide back from crushing everything in its path. Thinking of everything I was losing was a runaway train gathering momentum with every passing second. But the railroad switch that prevented the inevitable crash was the thought of all the things I was gaining. With summer coming to an end, with Mother Nature's once soft caress, now a sharp sting, with young ducklings and noisy geese once frolicking, now taking off toward the eternal summer, with lakes once alive with happy families, now full of empty winter-ready cabins, with me once laughing with my friends, now sitting in an empty room, peering out a window at an unfamiliar street. My excitement was a worthy opponent to my fear. So many new faces swirled in my memory, my mind scrambling to connect them with names. I realized how sheltered the world I was living in was. By moving away from home, I was able to become a true citizen of the world, with open eyes and hearing ears. Life isn't just about winning my favorite sport or getting the best grades in my class. It wasn't about how many friends I had, but who I was friends with. It wasn't about wearing the best clothes and buying into the new best thing, but rather about why some live with barely enough to sustain themselves and what I could do to change that. With summer coming to an end, with the swings that once rocked in the wind, now packed away in a bursting garage, with the sun-kissed girls and boys once carefree, now pinched with the worries of school, with gardens once filled with green frills, now picked clean and withering, with me once living under a rock, now exposed to the vast and daunting sky. It is now approaching 2 years since I made that move, and part of me wonders if summer will ever come again. I am thankful for the winter, but part of me is reminiscent of the sunny days when innocence surrounded me like a halo, when I danced in the rain oblivious of the inevitable sickness that would catch me in its cage-like claws. With summer coming to an end, the world stopped dreaming.
That was beautiful. So now it is. So I did have to print off my poem because I don't memorize that stuff. Y'all came up here and showed me off. I don't know. So bear with me and my shaking hands. So this poem is called The Crow Protects Her Mango Tree. A little bit about myself. I'm Gigi Scott. I've been writing poetry for a long time. I don't know how long that's been, but it's been a long time. And most of my poems center around depression because life is sad and being a Black woman who's depressed. So that is what we're about to hear today. Thank you. Her strokes is lengthy and hot,
fresh and thick, loud and black-filled. Sass drips off of her tail as she continues streaming it on longer, as though she isn't scared of her Caribbean mother would meet those very lips with a lesson only a Black mother's palm could give. Her strips is sing-songy, allowing me to follow the slight of her bill as she continues. Her tune ends with a thick chop, like hitting the wrong music note, but it still sounds as though it belongs. She belongs. Her dissatisfaction with the boy she sees stealing her mangoes before they fall and bruise, an earth sacrifice. I watch as the grass tries desperately to swallow the squished rotten mango seeds and skin, ackee seeds and all. The ants march a turned over roach to its grave that is soon to be in their stomachs. The red river of day-old goat blood stains the hillside of my auntie's backyard, hard and dried, caught frozen in time. The baying of a dying sheep echoes a forgotten tone across the hillside, sounds less like a zoo creature and more like a cry for help in the ears of a child, echoes as though to say, I was here, remember me this time. The winds dance around the mango tree. I still can't bring myself to eat curried goat anymore. Less of a delicacy now and more of a trial. The rope tied to the tree trunk, still with fur attached, lays deserted in pathetic pink dirt. The stains and fuzzy edges of it, a brown so deep it's almost black. I remember the very white rope I had used once, skipped with it just the morning prior, or maybe the morning before that, but now no longer its purpose for my enjoyment, but I mean, it never really truly was in the first place. My auntie slaps me for wasting the water on the dried goat blood, slaps me for leaving good mangoes still on the branches, slaps me for trying to catch the tree lizards that make me fall and break the branches beneath me, tells me I must learn to care for her mango tree, shows me the power in the strong roots that grow unruly, never to be tamed but remains in my auntie's backyard, kind of like me. That drinks the earth's sacrifice like blood, pecks a hole in my arm and shows me her mango tree is protected by a history of thick-necked murder. My auntie says the tree is not her tree, but she protects it even though once a white man came to see the mango tree that my auntie spent so long growing. Asked her for a mango and she said no. She said no, that some don't ask again, dug her claws in the grass and dared him to cross her. The white man was angry. He spit on my auntie and called her a crow. I feared he would soon become tied to the mango tree and slaughtered like the goats before him, a sacrifice. My auntie laughs. Sounds similar to a set of rattles and cliffs, but I had never heard that either. He calls her a crow and she tells him this crow will continue to protect the mango tree from him until she dies. And when she died, she asked to be buried beneath her mango tree, and I imagine her strokes echoes across the hillside as though to say, I was here, remember me this time. With her rope still tied to the tree trunk and her hair grasping to the inside, her strokes a series of loud caws, her soul untamed flies broad across the field, her wings long and broad with the tips like fingers, keeping thieves from her fallen mangoes. Thank you. And that brings us also to a good grounding end to our night or early evening today. Before we go though, I want to take a minute to really just thank each and every one of you guys for coming up in here, sharing your experiences or taking the time to listen to one another and enjoying one of your presence, coming out today and just simply being here. I know it takes a lot of other people's days, first thing Monday. So yeah, it's just a big shout out to Black Lives Matter for sponsoring this event today, making it possible for all of us to be able to do what we can do, making sure that we have an awesome tech person so that way you guys can have photos and videos and live streaming of all this amazing stuff going on, making sure that we have Mids and Miras here doing part of the emceeing, doing all of the awesome stuff that we do. A big thank you to Matt Courtois, who is our photography /tech/ making sure that we can do this online. So big shout out, a big round of applause to Matt. We have come in here all weekend to make sure that this event is running and the sound check and everything is working, and spending 24 hours with me alone for Matt is more than enough time. So honestly, a big round of applause for him, and just thank him for making it through so that way we can do this, have all this beautiful lighting, and make this room, tiny office, look like an actual stage where that's not crappy. So honestly, another shout out to Matt. Thank you so much. Other than that, thank you to everybody who has joined us online. Again, our online presenters and everybody else there, everybody who joined us in person. Bye.
Bye.